Fine match on the European server qualifier for the NetEase eSports X Tournament Winter 2021, a tournament which is once again partnered for ESL points. As we have in the bottom right hand side, the blue Zerg from NC Esports, it is Serral. Taking on the red Terran in the bottom left hand side from Dragon Phoenix Gaming, it is Kua. He has been waiting about 2 hours for a matchup. Like, legitimately waiting like 2 hours for this matchup to start. So, hopefully Hua's been staying warmed up and staying ready to play and all of that good stuff, because he's got a tough match ahead of him in Serral, who's been playing just long games today, by the way. He played two 25 to 30-minute games against Hearthstone. He played a 50-minute game against Showtime. And here he is now in the qualifying match to play some ZvT instead of all that ZvP. Now, you know what? I feel like we didn't say this one today on the other match that's likely to go on YouTube. So if you do watch this on YouTube, if this turns out to be a fun and exciting ZvT, then do consider hitting the subscribe button. And consider liking the video if you enjoy what you're hearing, because it helps other people to find the content. And it helps our YouTube just to do that a little bit better, which is always great. That's always fantastic. And helps us out a whole bunch. And yeah, just to explain, it's a European server qualifier, which just means that it gets played on the European server. It's not just for Europeans, anyone can play. It's just held on the European server. So if you want to put with the latency and the time zone, you're very welcome to, anyone is welcome to basically come and play. So, same for the Korean server qualifiers. The Europeans are more than welcome to try out the latency and the time zone over there and play in those. But that doesn't happen a lot. Second rack's already on the way from Kua, so he's already building into a fairly aggressive opening with the two barracks here. This is just going to be seeing our depot setting up. Yeah, pretty standard then. Obviously, two racks. Doesn't wall off with them because he wants to kind of keep Serral's Overlord in the dark. Serral can't scout here initially with this Overlord, so he doesn't know exactly what it is. So yeah, really from the get-go, Serral should be a little bit concerned as to what exactly is happening. And we'll probably need to find a way to try and pick up that information at some stage. Otherwise, he's going to be in some trouble. Reaper ends up backing up then for a little bit. That's going to be seeing our couple of additional Marines pouring on out, and they're coming on through. So getting that Marine count up and running. As the Queen and the Reaper have a little bit of a skirmish, just momentarily, nothing too major. Nobody's too upset at the other. Just seeing that Stimpack continuing through on the tech lab. So Stimpack's on the way, the reactor is down. A few additional Marines coming out, the orbital command about to be done. That Queen just avoiding being bopped off to the side by the Reaper grenade. Is going to stay out of trouble as well. So Reaper comes back along to the far left-hand side here, and again, Zergling Speed going to be finishing up in a moment from Serral. There's going to be seeing Stim and Starport, etc., all of this coming through, and just going to be having now a Queen finishing up on the main base in a few moments' time. So again, that Queen completed, a few Queens on the way in total, and a Baneling Nest on the way down from Serral now. As we get set up onto the initial kind of build. We'll see the Stimmed Marines will be on their way soon. Serral has to be careful with the Bane Nest because, again, his scouting this game was very minimal. So he's just having to play a very cautious game. He's not really able to cut any corners. He doesn't have information before now to cut corners with. So it would have just been kind of blind guessing. And that's not something Serral is in the business for. Serral is very much a player who will play aggressive and, macro, and he will cut corners, but it will always be based on what he sees. He is very much so a reactionary player, more so than a gamble it up kind of player. We're just getting pushed away. He come our first two medevacs as they are actually unload for a moment, use that boost to just get down to the natural expansion. And now they're just going to walk across the map, so this is already slowing this attack down. This is a regular 2-1-1 as well. The third CC starts behind this. It wasn't 3CC, then 2-1-1, so there's a little bit of action being delayed a little bit on the side of Kua. Now he does have that third medevac coming in, additional Marines. That's when this army definitely becomes its scariest. When you have that third medevac coming into play. And that's something which you'll maybe just be looking to push with. But before now, you usually try and get some creep spread and push those queens back a little. You know, just take some map control to then give the third medevac timing a little bit more hope and a bit more, well, potential. Right now, that is perhaps not going to actually happen here, so... Waiting on that, a few queens over on that right-hand side. We don't mind burrows, a few marines coming through, just going to see our creep spread. And it's going to get picked away at, so a few creep teamers already going down. Knocks a couple creep queens back with that Reaper grenade there, as our marines just going to sit down, and our drilling claw is on the way up. Combat shield's about to be done. Second factory going to be done here soon from Kira as well, so just going to be getting that Widow Mine count up and rolling, knowing the importance of that and knowing how much value you can find off of them. That'll be his plan as we stem in for one queen. Ling's coming through. The Banelings get target fired by the mine. They do blow it up before too much happens, though. And try and drop in the main, but Serral is prepared. He already has a Spore Crawler in position. Now you're getting forced backwards into the queens. And they are going to get rid of a medevac that had about 6 marines in or so. And this is just already a really good early game defense from Serral, who gets his upgrade started sooner than his opponents as well. His Baneling speed is halfway done. In fact, I'm actually really worried for Kira. Those engineering bays are horrifically late. I mean, he's going to have 1-1 stun when Serral is over halfway done with his. Yeah, this is not good at all for Kira. You know, his upgrades are so late that I actually myself checked down to see if they were finished already. I was like, well, are they already done? No, they haven't even started the engineering bays. I mean, yeah, this is a little bit rough because a 2-on-1 is not a brilliant setup for later either, right? You didn't have a 3cc this entire time, so if you don't do anything, it is just brutal. And you look at the income graph, Serral has been mining more for a couple of minutes now. And yeah, Baneling speed is done. He's going to have some fights with 1-1, so he has a chance to trade effectively while having mined more. Definitely looks like there's some potential for him here. As the Ling Bane chases a medevac away in the top corner. And there is a Widow Mine now here. Taking a few shots of damage. Just one drone going down. This Widow Mine's dealt with. So far, Serral very good on the defense, making sure the mines don't allow Kira to start running away with this game. As, 7 drones go down in the top. So there is a little bit of an open, and there is something, at least for Kira, that goes his way a little bit better. But, yeah, I mean... Okay, that's something. That definitely is a step in the right direction, but everything else for Serral is still fantastic because of the way the game's been setting up. And that's definitely a big part of the problem, as our Lings are going to go and attach themselves to that set of rocks here. Hive coming through, and 16 more Zerglings all on the way out from Serral. That +2 Carapace upgrade also moving in, so quick to move into Carapace, quick to move into the second melee. Again, these fights are going to be in his favor because of the upgrades. He burrows the Widow Mines. I don't think Serral was ready for the Widow Mines to just straight up burrow at the end of that. So he loses a lot as, Banes have got the SCVs on the run over here. They're trying to split away, but now the Lings are going to find their way to it. The army of Kira went to the upper right. So Serral is able to come through and get only 5 workers in the end. We'll make it 7 as he finds 2 building his wall off over here. Now he's going to re-engage in. That one Widow Mine shot was massive, of course, and that is a big part of helping this. As 4 drones go down, but Serral is also defending the Marines in the medevacs. So they are being turned away, and now Serral says, cool, Hive is about to be done. My Hydroden's coming up. Time for me to look towards Adrenal Glands, probably just the Lurker Den and the Lurker upgrades. Serral definitely just having the freedom to do as he wishes right now here in this first game. Another 8 drones just died. There are little cheeky Widow Mines that are genuinely doing a lot. I mean, credit to them. They are picking up just a few drones here and a few drones there, and that adds up over the course of the game, and maybe, just maybe, gives you some hope at the very least as Kira. Otherwise, he hasn't really done anything, you know, throughout this, so... Right kind of ideas are just going to be seeing our few Marines loading back up into medevacs. More drones going down. Widow Mine just goes on one Zergling initially. The drone just about escaping away. Lings and Bane's going to come back through. Widow Mine doesn't do too much right. Damage in the top right, just a couple of Marines chipping away at a couple of final workers before that attack is done as well. And it's come back through. Drone gets transfused as the Queens will finally finish this off. You lose one drone anyway, though. Okay, I mean, to be fair, Kira's definitely done enough to keep Serral busy, keep Serral back. You know, like I say, definitely getting a few drones helps along the way as well, so I kind of like it for Kira, you know? It's getting to be a much better situation than it once seemed to be. Serral's still a little way off the lurkers. He's only just now starting to lurk again. The first couple of Vipers are coming through as well, so just getting those up and running. Adrenal Glands is about to complete. Just gonna see how Lingbane continue to run on through towards all of this. So in they go. Those medevacs being chased away. Just gonna be seeing the drop in the main. The drop play is genuinely just keeping Serral back, and yeah, Serral's just not being able to fight this entire time. Now he's started a second lurker den, so he's getting flustered. He's making mistakes. He's not realizing what he's already done before. Wow. This is really actually heading south for Serral pretty quickly, as Kua did not have a good start. Serral absolutely had the better start in this game, but he is having a much better mid-game right now. Those Vipers are lining up for some abductors. Meanwhile, we do see Creep being cleared out in the center. A drop in the top right-hand side as well, so there is just a little bit of action everywhere right now. There we go, coming through is the Fusion Core coming up as well. Just going to be seeing those medevacs getting abducted in. That's going to be seeing, again, those going down. Fusion Core on the way from Cures. He's starting to say, okay, I can play a late game. No, I'm not afraid of that, as he's also got another Widow Mine dropping in here. Let's see how that goes in a moment or two. As larger fight over here, Serral is going to come chasing this Bio Army back, and I imagine that portion of the army is not going to do well. You can more of these Widow Mines, but dropping straight into Lingbane, and they will all go down, including the medevac as well. So that's a cleanup from Serral. And now a couple moments from Serral, which have looked a little bit more convincing, with a defense in the main, the attack on the map on the top side being cleaned up. Definitely looking a little bit more promising suddenly for our Zerg. Now remember, he is on the verge of having lurkers if he wants to have lurkers. He's got the lurker den up. He hasn't started seismic spines yet, so maybe not super eager to go there, but I'd be surprised if he didn't for too long. I mean, Kira is building into Liberators and Ghosts, so he is prepping for the lurkers. That shouldn't really mean that you don't go into them, though, as Serral, because otherwise you're just putting yourself on an overall worse composition. And getting back around that left-hand side. As we're just going to be seeing our bases of Kira have actually gone up without issue recently, right? It's been a while since we saw SCVs be killed. He's only lost 7 SCVs all game, as the Spy Army will stim. The Lingbane Hydra continuing through. A couple Widow Mines here going to go off on the first few units. Serral's just going to start screeching through this force, but going to be halted as he just kind of gets to that low ground, decides it's not worth chasing anymore. Now he's just going to drop double Nidus, recognizing, okay, let's go in late game, get my lurker upgrades going, get the double Nidus up, get myself settled into a position here which can really benefit me, and which I can really play out over a longer period of time. That is absolutely Serral's plan at this point, as we keep this going. Few Banes and Hydras here. I mean, this isn't a pretty fight. You're into a Terran Concave off creep. There's Liberators set up. Yeah, I mean, you can see Serral immediately recognize that wasn't the fight he wanted to be a part of. He was just trying to get away, but just taking so much damage as he tried to get away. That's, of course, where it becomes so costly. Lib still coming through, as we do have the double Spire building up as well, so just getting that into play. I will give him access to upgrades, the greatest Spire a bit later down the line, definitely something which is sometimes good for helping to end the game as some Banes crash through. A lot of these Marines just stood there tanking the shots, and now the Banelings are still chasing. Final couple of Marauders go down. Kira losing a lot right then. Serral quick to rebuild, 62 Zerglings on the way. That was some lackluster control of that army from Kira. And for how good he's been kind of throughout the game, it was just a little bit disappointing and might just give Serral a little bit of an edge here now. Going into the next few moments as our Marines continue around and figuring out what exactly they want to try and do. And where they want to be. Looking used to the burrow, just finding a way to hide the Lings in the corner, maybe bring them back in later without having to run them around the map again. Always a nice little added extra as these Liberators are going to siege up, and this Queen is going to get evaporated as 7 SCVs just went down. Lurker Fire on the back of this gold base turns out to be freaking deadly. Damn. Of Ducks and Ghosts going down. Liberator is going to siege up on the back side of the gold. The Hydras, Lings, and Banes are just going to fall back as well. So moving away from those liberation zones. Pulling it back and just kind of letting the Libs stay defensive for the moment. Definitely feels like the last few moments, Serral kind of kicked it up a gear again and just said, hey, look, yeah, you've been controlling the game. Your drops have been somewhat effective, but, you know, that ends now. You know, that's done. Let's move into my game again, and he's really been controlling this a lot more recently, and I like that. I like that a lot, actually. I think that's definitely the right idea. There's a little Bioforce here, trying to go through the Queen, and we'll work through that. Marauder gets picked off, just going to see the rest of these Vipers kind of going down. Our Liberator is still setting up as well, as our Great Aspire is about to be finished. Lings and +3 missiles also coming up at the moment, so all of this just on the way up. Just gonna see a little abduct in SCV and a few of these Liberators. There's Hydras here, so they can target down the Libs. Gets 2 of the 3 that were abducted. Not bad going, all said and done. And now we see high capacity fuel tanks being established as well. It's just getting that upgrade rolling too. Obviously that gives you the the medevac bonus boosting, so again, just a late game upgrade, which a lot of people would ignore. Here says absolutely not. I see the importance of this. I'm just going to put it to use. Well, just going to be seen with the entire left side of the map taken by Cure. Problem is, Serral just doesn't have the right side of the map. He has the top and bottom of the map as well. And that's really why I think you're going to come into the biggest issue of all here. And I think that's really where you kind of have to kind of question, as Cure, what do? You're going to have to trade with such extreme efficiency to be able to break out of this. And when Serral's controlling the map, you know, finding a very efficient trade is going to be difficult as well, because Serral can really pick and choose his battles. And it does feel like that is where a lot of the trouble is going to come from for Cure. Serral's bank already heading towards being 6k, 3k, so definitely on the right direction there as well. Look, you're just going to fire from afar. Lib shots come through and push that back. The Lungbane Hydra joins up, and well, our Vipers are making their way to that left-hand side, so away they go as the Bio Army comes stimming in here. Gonna clean up on the bottom side, take down this Hatchery and the Spore Crawler. Well, Liberator shots as the Ling's taking some damage. And just abduct in those Liberators once again, and at this point, Serral's kind of just happy to tread out a little bit. Once those Lings there at the end being forced to pull away, they take a lot of extra damage. Cure does clean out the 6 o'clock base, so you do actually lose the base. You lose a few SCVs in the process, and I mean, again, you start up 3 command centers, so I guess you've got bases for days as these two just lock horns and really do just accept that we are going to late game, apparently. Nukes on the way. I mean, Terrans do have a way with the late game, right? They definitely often come in when you don't expect them to and have a very good late game. They can kind of sustain a lot of attacks, but to me, Serral's not the guy that's going to over-attack into Cure here at all. And his army composition already suggests that that just isn't going to be the case. You know, he's already got an army that's just going to kind of abduct here and there, you know, do a bit of damage back away. He's not just going to run units into Cure repeatedly. And that's why I think my issue kind of lies. Serral trades about 6,000 resources worse so far. I'll keep that in mind because that obviously gives us a kind of a goalpost to look at later, right? We can say, oh, Q has started to trade even better, or you know, Serral's brought it back a bit. It is important that Q trades better than Serral when Serral's going to be mining 2 more bases than you will get your hands on, because that's net 4 base difference, you know. You mine off of, you know, well, your 6th base, and Serral mines off 8. Well, that's it's kind of crazy. Because then Serral has just kind of 2 full bases of advantage. You can get this bottom side, then you mine 7 bases each, and that's kind of okay. Just again, when Serral gets both, you kind of get stuck on 6, and then Serral's on 8, right? So it's just that little bit of an extra little something is. It's going to be seen as CC's coming through. Nuke is on the way. Missile turrets are coming up. Fire Force is going to fight here, and these queens going to have to transfuse each other up again, keeping them healed up at the moment, and these medevacs going down. So again, a good trade for Serral, where he just doesn't really lose much in the process right now. Hydra Bane coming around, setting up on the back side of this. A few SCVs going down as well. Our command center is still coming into the center. As that Ghost got across there to just try and be in position to, you know, fight and snipe if needed. Serral's making broods, and that means Q has to get an answer to brood lords up as well. It's going to be what the Vikings are for. So getting those Vikings producing en masse 4 at a time. Does not want to let these brood lords just be able to overwhelm this game, because that would be a sad way for this to end after you fought so hard to get here. Nice EMP. Actually misses the Vipers for the most part, though. Hits the Overseers and the back Viper, so that was just a little bit off, unfortunately. As Q just finally established the 6 o'clock base. That one Spore Crawler never had a chance. All of his buddies moved back, and he just never got him burrowed. So actually sees the Ghost over here. He knows where it is. The Overseer? Okay, just a bailing caught in the nuke fire. Nuke did manage to land. I mean, nuking around the map is nice, but it is going to cost you resources as QS. So the question is, can you get enough out of these to, you know, really make it worthwhile? But the nuke and a couple spores end up just backing away. Just going to be seeing the Vikings still all coming through. 3 nukes being built at a time. Serral going for a little bit of a push forward, getting the broods into range, forcing an orbital to reposition. Nuke in the center, nuke on the right side again, just a couple at a time. SCV's going down top side, the gold base. This lurker just lays waste to about 9 of them, so nice little catch as we're going to see this nuke right on this Overseer. No! Overseer didn't pull away when he was meant to. There's seen a few victims to the nukes, a few of the ghosts going down. As, again, Q getting this bottom side base is really important, because now they're mining an equal amount of bases. So now that you mine an equal amount of bases, it's definitely going to become a little bit more problematic. And yes, just to fix what I said earlier, I know I said, you know, net 4 bases. I was getting carried away, because I was imagining Serral's taking 2 bases that, you know, Kira's, you know, meant to have. But obviously, Kira's already meant to only have 1 of those bases. So Serral's meant to have 1, Kira's meant to have 1. That's 7 each. But just by taking the other one, by taking that 1 extra base, it's a net 2 gain, because then you're on 8 and Kira's on 6. I was speaking as though, like, both these bases are, like, you know, meant to be Kira's, and that was just me getting caught up in the moment explaining it badly. So yes, net 2 bases just for taking the additional base as well as the 1 of your own. So yeah, now it's 7 bases each, and that means that Serral does just have like a limit at which he can kind of, you know, a limit to how many resources lost you can have over Kira. Whereas before, with a 2 base advantage, you know, it's really just like, oh, you can just go and go and go. Resource loss has been pretty okay for Serral recently, only 3,000 difference now, so has been getting better the last few fights. Nuke's keeping Serral back, keeping Serral busy, looking around the map and dealing with them. And that slowly gives Kira a chance to maybe do something to himself. Nice play from Serral here, just confidently puts the Spore Crawlers forward and says, no, I can fight this. Another nuke that lands right in there. That's going to be seeing a lot of lives. There's one abducted through, and a little bit of damage actually being done. A unit being killed again. Feels like it's been a little while. As we're coming up to about, well, we're past 25 minutes into this game at this point in time, and a few more nukes coming up, plus 3 ship weapons is on the way too. And plenty more Vikings also being brought in. Needs that Viking count to get up nice and high. Liberator is here protecting this bottom base, but I'm not sure that's going to make the difference against all the Brood Lords firing at it. And just because Serral has this kind of position in the middle of the map, he's essentially able to deny that bottom base. We are getting a nuke further forward on the top, though. That top base looks as though it might end up being nuked. No, killed. Ghost gets killed in time. This nuke lands, but not really on anything too meaningful as well. As for the moment, we keep this base down here up and running as Cure, but I say up and running. It keeps it up. It's not running. The SUVs are pulled off the mineral line, and they're just trying to repair. He's just trying to make this something he can go back to a bit further down the line as Broods get onto it again. This time the SUVs don't have a repair, so I think that's just a straight-up kill. The Vikings come through. They're going to get rid of an Overseer initially. Many more Overseers where that came from, though, as we get a Fungal and then a Parasitic Bomb. Good split away from Cure, though. But still just leaving a couple of these Vikings chasing down Broods, pressuring until the Corruptors come back in. Got a Fungal, but it wasn't really needed. The Parasitic Bomb got the job done. Another nuke just pushing back that crew spread slightly. Serral still 10k, 6k in the bank, and that's the issue for Cure. How is he meant to really fight through this? Apparently this qualifier is just the qualifier of very long games, because this is the second time now. Third time, fourth time. I mean, Serral especially is just playing a lot of long games in this qualifier. He's had multiple maps go over 30 minutes so far, and he's only played 3 best of 3s. He had 2 maps in his first best of 3, 1 map in his second best of 3. This is the third one, and we're 2.5 minutes out from 30 minutes plus. Another nuke launching out here as Kira sets those out. Again, just trying to push back the creep a bit, trying to push back Serral's position a little tiny bit as well. Good amount of creep teamers already going down here. Missile turret's about to be done, and the additional nukes are all building. There's a lot of Vikings and Liberators down the south side. He really built up a like a massive air army. 38 Vikings and 10 Liberators, and then it's only supported by like 11 Ghosts. I'd say it's decent against what Serral currently has. What if Serral just goes a bit more back heavily into Ling Bane though on the follow-up to this? Is that not then just a lot of wasted air supply? Perhaps the spellcasting trying to pick through the Viking count on the bottom side of this. Those Vikings are coming back around once again. Nuke and a nuke, just trying to push away. Again, Kyo can knock 9 from the bottom base, which he kind of wanted to be his. Which he kind of needs to be his, right? Again, that hurts. He cancels this nuke because it's probably just going to hurt the Liberators. Things coming through, a nice little Overseer EMP again. Make sure they don't drop any changelings, okay, guys? And do you guys think this air army can be enough to make a difference if you just kill off all the Broods and you just go from there and you just run across the map? I just worry that once you kill the Brood Lords, it's like, so what? Now you've got loads of Vikings and Serral just builds kind of whatever else he wants to. He doesn't have an Ultra Cavern on the map, but you could just play like Ling Bane or something. $12k, 8k banked up from Serral as he continues to mine out the map. And as he mines out the map, he can trade off some drones as well and obviously just reintroduce more army. So his army's going to be even larger to fight with all at once. Maybe that becomes the plan, just knowing that he's slowly mining out faster than his opponent anyway. get all the resources, then you take a larger fight. I think he's also happy just chipping away from afar. I think he knows that this can absolutely be a decent way for him to play, as our Vikings are going to come through. Brood's taking a bit of damage. Corruptors taking a hefty shot. Supported by the Vipers that aren't really doing much just yet. Nukes going down. Vikings still fighting. Parasitic bombs are still flying. And we have got ourselves the Brood Lord's backing away. The nuke's going to go down between all of this. The Overseer backs up, and the nuke will hit, well, just a little bit of damage on the planetary, a little bit of damage on the spores. The spores that are going to relocate forward again. 29 SCVs remaining here from Kira. He needs to mine from this base. He doesn't really have anywhere else to mine from right now as we abduct in the Ghost that's dropping the nuke. So this time the Brood's going to continue forward. And here come the Vikings spread out to try and make sure the Fungals are minimized. It's a huge fleet of Vikings as they fly on in. I mean, they are chasing down Broodlords like crazy. They're going to try and shoot them all down, but the Parasitic bombs are good. The Fungals are decent. Serral loses a lot of supply, but Serral has the rebuild potential. He just needs to figure out what he wants to rebuild. He's got 71 lava in the bank. He just needs to think about what he's going to build here. Initially starts with 5 Overlords. I mean, good start, but wasn't necessary before he builds anything else. Okay, he's just going to get more Broods and Corruptors. I don't disagree. Hey, look at what was lost. I mean, they both lost a serious amount. Serral and Kira both dipped down heavily. Serral rebuilds, and he still has a massive bank after it, and Kira is now going to be struggling. He's got a gas bank, but not enough minerals. I mean, he had to go there. He had to protect that 6 o'clock base. He very much so knew that, and he played as though he knew it. So he definitely has a good idea about what he needs to do to win the game. It's just a question of, is it even a realistic possibility at this stage anymore? Are we surprised to see Corruptor Broodlord again? I guess not. Just kind of fight the air army with an air army of your own. If you're comfortable, you can make more. You don't need a fancy tech switch or anything weird that could maybe go wrong. If you're just comfortable kind of fighting with more stuff versus less stuff, then just kind of go for it, right? Couple Fungals dropping, nukes coming in, couple of Vikings and Libs continuing up. I love these nukes just kind of being a separator between them. And once the nuke lands, you're like, the whistle blows and you can fight again for a few moments. It's like round 74, begin! They engage, they fight, and then the nuke goes down. They have to back up, take a moment, get back to their corners, and reset. Ah, nice fungal on the Vikings, plus the Parasitic bomb. Pure doesn't have the money to repair them. Oh, they all went down. There was a refresh on the fungal. Yikes. That's really bad. There goes a good chunk of the anti-air that we were kind of talking about previously in terms of, well, Kyo just trying to rebuild it, and obviously Serral trying to outmass it. And now it feels like Kyo's going to be stuck on an army that absolutely cannot be competitive with what Serral is playing with. Couple libs on siege. We pull back to the left-hand side. It's going to come through. Missile turret goes down. A few more SCVs being picked away at. Serral has a severe advantage this time around, maxed out with a bank versus a non-maxed Kyo. This game is looking as though it's going to be done soon. It's 34 minutes of TVs in a game which, I mean, as well, just to remind you, 30 more minutes of ZvT, but a game which really started very well for Serral. I don't really feel like it needed to get here, and I do think Kyo forced it here a little bit because he actually had a really good phase of the game. There was like 3 or 4 minutes where Kyo had like a lot of drops going very well for himself. He had a lot of attacks that just went his way. Kyo was really the dominant player for that little while, and that went very well for him, but obviously that fell apart a little bit toward the end. And well, I mean, that part was great. That didn't fall apart. It was just, obviously, we got to a stage of this game. There's only 14 gas left on that geyser. We just got to a stage of this game where it just didn't matter anymore. You know, doing stuff like that doesn't make sense, and you just got to kind of play out a longer situation. And that's what Kyo set up to do, but it just wasn't enough. And now you don't have a 6 o'clock base. Your income is minimal. Serral's not mining much more, because quite frankly, at this point, he doesn't have that many He just doesn't have many bases of his own to mine from. In fact, he has nowhere apart from this bottom side, so he's just long distance mining. But again, it's about what's already been mined. And as Serral actually turned this into an efficient trade as well. You know, he's now 12,000 resources lost ahead, so Serral's just been trading better now, severely over the last little while. Van's backing up in the center. There's Liberator coming through. A couple of spores are making their way over to chase that Liberator out of here. The spores back in the middle of the map, just going to unburrow and get away. Ooh, good first fungal up to the top side. Gridlords are coming through and Kuro types GG. Apparently that is enough punishment for now, as Serral takes the first map of this qualifying best of 3 series. Bottom left-hand side, our blue Zerg player taking the 1-0 lead in this best of 3. We do have Serral from eSports. Definitely was convincing his position for the last little while there. But such is the way that these matchups play out. Just because you're in a convincing position doesn't always mean you can go ahead and take advantage of it or anything, right? So yeah, on we go. Is in the top right Cure. As our Red Terran really held off and really tried to draw the game out as best he could, but obviously there was only so much he could really do. It's fun to see Serral playing these long games. I mean, even when he's kind of ahead, it's still fun to watch his control and watch how he plays it out and just, you know, see how he deals with all that kind of stuff. I always find it fun, at least. Reactor coming up, getting ready to go. Heading up around the top. Let's see, Kira is going to drop 2 additional racks this time. So he's going to play a 3 racks instead of a 2 racks. So last time he went 2-on-1. This time he's going to 3 racks, which means a lot more Marines right off the bat very quickly. So that's definitely something for us to look at here and to see how it plays out. See if he can get some more aggression done with that and maybe put himself into a better position than in that last game. And again, like last time around, we really just didn't do very much with the initial damage or anything. So, you know, the 2-1-1 didn't do anything at all. The third medevac showed up, wasn't great. Actually lost a medevac with Marines inside to try to drop the main base at one stage. Overlord speed here from Serral. He wants to make sure he knows what he's up against. He doesn't want to be tricked by anything. He doesn't want to be caught off guard. So he will invest into the Overlord speed early. Basically paying a price and taking some damage to himself right now to be able to not take damage later by knowing what's coming his way. But he sees a lot of Marines already, so he'll have a pretty good read. But still distinguishing between like a 3 racks and a 2-on-1 is a nice little something as well, as these Marines are actually just on their way across the map at the moment. So away they go on a journey down to the bottom left. Impact and combat shield on the way. The Baneling Nest from Serral is starting as well, which is absolutely what you want. And even starts a Spine Crawler too. He's afraid of the Marines, which he saw, but now he sees that it's he sees something with this Overlord. I think it's just the fact he sees Marines at home. He knows this it's not a full commitment just yet, so he cancels the Spine. And I think that's very smart, of course, just says, right, well, if you're not sending everything right now, I don't need the spine right now, in which case I've got time to get the baneling nest up, and if I got the baneling nest up, then I'm going to be pretty comfortable anyway with everything else from here on out. Marines heading down to the bottom side, so a lot of them pushing across. Stimpack, combat shield, all of this continuing through. The Ling Bane is still on the way up as well. It's going to be seen our Marines are gathering together, pushing down to the bottom, and with the Banes already morphing in, I don't really feel worried at all here for Serral. Almost the target fire on Banelings can be nice. These are slow Banelings at the moment, as these Marines, if they get caught by the Lings, though, there's only so much micro you can make happen, and they are caught. No, they slip away. The Lings are going to try and catch them again. Even just slowing them down a little bit allows the Banes to connect, and for now, it's enough to chase this initial attack away. And Serral is making 20 more Lings. He might even look for a counter-attack here, because there's no Medivacs, no Hellions, etc. So he might just be able to do a lot, busting through into the natural and just going from there. Oh, he still has the Marines out on the map as well, so he's going to come in and surround these now. His Banes aren't here yet, though. Pure target fired one of the Banelings and didn't really go for the rest. So you're just going to be seeing the factory go into the reactor too. I assume we're going to start building mines pretty much immediately in this situation. We're just going to see our 2 evolution chambers still coming in. Plenty of creep chambers coming in as well as our armory comes up. And a couple of additional racks coming through. So just getting that up and running here. The Widow Mine's on the way in as well, as the Lings will wrap around and pick away at these rocks. Just picking away rocks then, the Overlord getting picked off, another Overlord getting chased away is just going to be seeing our Marine stepping in, and is going to kill an Overlord just to supply block Serral slightly. Serral has more Overlords coming though, so it's not the end of the world just yet as he preps to deal with a future attack. Again, no Bane speed yet, and +1 is done here from Kira as well, something to look at as Widow Mine's gonna unburrow, and Serral says, okay, if the Widow Mine's unburrowing, I'll take that fight. Splits against the Widow Mines as he goes, has the Overseers here, and turns this attack of Kira around once again, as Kira is still just pushing and pushing. Has a 3rd CC, hasn't taken into position yet, it's just floating over now. So that's something to keep our eyes on, as the Overseer of Serral once again checks for a full update of this main natural, and maybe even we'll go through and end up seeing the 3rd base landing as well. So it looks like Serral getting good info on that. And maybe we set up a counterattack when you see that 3rd landing as well. Maybe you send something up there right away. Definitely a possibility. Medivacs and Marines will start to make their way forward. A few units around the right side from Kira as well, and getting set up. It's going to be seeing the +2 attack start, and the +1 armor not far from finishing either. There's that infestation pit coming through, and a bit more Ling Bane continuing to build. The burrow is going to be done in a moment. As our Marines come down, picking off an Overlord, and yeah, +1 armor still coming through. Hydra Den coming up, infestation pit is finishing. As Queens get through to the frontier. That first Widow Mine doesn't do a lot. Next Widow Mine gonna get a good chunk of Zerglings as Serral didn't really play around that Widow Mine being there. Gets up to his Hydra Den in the next few moments. No sign of a hive, right? So it looks as though we're just going to be having... He does have infestation pits. Okay, so maybe we do look towards the Lurker Den here right away. Serral just taking his moment, not choosing to fight just yet. Forcing these Marines to stem as he loses some of his workers... some of his creep tumors, sorry. The workers of Cure are going down. 13 SCVs killed to the run by on the top side. So the run by on the top does serious damage. And that's why Serral is finally going to strike and do a little bit as... Oh no, those Marines were just a little too slow to get lifted up. And now we're going to lose these Widow Mines as well. And suddenly it feels like things are not going well for Kua. You lose those workers and you lose some army on top of it. Ouch. Going to be seeing the little bit of Ling Bane still trying to move forward there. Widow Mine just going off on one more Ling. Now there's no splash damage, right? So we move forward and we strike. Serral cleans up this position and forces those few Marines and medevacs away off to that right-hand side. +2 attack finishing from Kua. He'll take an upgrade lead here for quite a while because Serral didn't start his own 2-2. He's been done for a while. He'll start +1 missiles and +2 carapace. So we'll be focusing a little bit more on the lurkers here in the near future. Lings and Banes just going through. Marines getting a surround, and a couple of those Lings going down for the, good of kind of pushing this back. We are going to see some creep bottom right corner being cleaned out, so that's what Kira is going to go and do now, clean out a bunch of this creep spread and working from there. Just come through, just going to get rid of a few of these Marines. And I'm just going to be seeing the army again coming up this right-hand side. Widow Mine's down the left. Just going to be seeing the Lings running in to try and jump on those. 1, 2, and 3 Widow Mines connecting so far. Spellthrower is going to fire, and that is going to be a... Widow Mines just getting burrowed up, drone, and a few Zerglings going down, so getting some good damage at the end of it. Here comes the Ling Bane, continue to chase through, and we fight over here as well. Just clearing up this army once again. Just feels like Hugh's making no progress at the moment, while Serral is taking step after step towards having lurkers up and running on the map. And at the moment, Kira is not really set to deal with that, so... A lot of Widow Mines, they don't do very well against the lurkers. I'm starting to worry a little bit for Kira that this is just getting a little bit out of hand. Just going to come out on this base, which I think we're always meant to do, right? You're going to blow up these SCVs. Doesn't even cost you that many banelings. Just run by up here. Doesn't get the depots, but only because he didn't bust through. Could have used the banelings there, and that would have been Kira's supply blocked. That's now trailing behind at 150 supply to the 200 supply of Serral. Yikes. SCV's just getting to work on the top side. Marines and Widow Mines through the middle again, just heading down to the south. They do crash through a group of depots on the top of the map as well, as our few Marines will step in, and this extractor will be in some fairly serious trouble as well. These few banelings do get taken down. So the Bane's getting picked away at. Widow Mines firing. Widow Mines burrow up and just going to go after a few different Lings. The Banes continue through. I mean... We're not going to be seeing the rest of this Ling Bane continuing forward. Widow Mine's connecting on a lot of the Ling Bane. Okay, I mean, the Widow Mines did alright, I suppose. They weren't the most craziest of shots. It wasn't like the Ling Bane was grouped up in, like, one big kind of centralized area. Just going to see the +3 attack upgrade still coming through. Our Marine Stem down, and the Queens will just turn to fight. Just going to transfuse each other up a little bit. Lings will run in. Widow Mine's going to go off, but not too much effect. This one should be big, right? Boom! That's the kind of bigger connection that Kira needs. Unfortunately, he's just not going to get enough of them. 18 Hydras are going to stream out of the production tab from Serral onto the map. Of course, we're expecting a bunch to become lurkers, and it really does feel as though the momentum is just so far gone from Kira that this best of 3 is perhaps well on its way to being wrapped up today. Ling Bane just continuing through, a few of the Marines being picked away at. Banes continue up, and there's just no army here anymore, right? I mean, there's a little bit coming out of the natural. There's nothing in position to actually protect this third base mineral line. Somehow only 3-4 SCVs going down. I think there's just a couple units in there that were being held and kept everything busy. 10 drones went down as the Widow Mine drop does strike across the map. So credit to Kira, he's finding some damage. It's just going to run in here again. Parasitic Bomb on the medevac. I believe that's a guaranteed kill from that HP. I don't think there's anything you can do about it, and it will just drop down dead. As Pure types GG, the Lurkers show up. He really has no preparation for Lurkers. And Serral, I want to say fairly dominatingly, kind of makes his way through into the next event. GG's from him. Well played, and Serral 2-0 over Cure wraps up this qualifier.